Galaxy Fold. Oh my goodness, a complete shift in smartphones. You already know, you watched the unboxing video. Now I'm playing with the thing. I'm getting so many people saying, like, how do you even compare this thing? Like, what do you put it up against? The closest we can do right now is stack it up against the other flagship devices that exist. And for me, this is kind of useful. I feel like just putting these devices together, booting up YouTube, you can kind of get a sense for how the Fold stacks up against these other phones. This on the far left is the brand new Galaxy Fold, folded out. It's on the YouTube home feed right now. Next to that, you have the current phone that I'm using. That's the P30 Pro. Next to that, that's the latest, a Galaxy S10 Plus. And then on the far right, iPhone XS Max. And they're all on the YouTube home feed. As you can tell, the watch window that exists right on the home feed without turning the device into landscape is almost as big as these phones are completely. So if I take this iPhone, for example, I flip it and kind of drop it in there. Yes, it extends beyond the frame of the Galaxy Fold, but not by much. You can think about this as like always having a large scale landscape device in your hands, except in portrait mode. Now the aspect ratio is quite bizarre as well, because what happens is when you flip this thing into actual landscape, of course it gets much larger, but the aspect ratio is not that of a typical smartphone. You know, typical smartphones have been getting more and more narrow recently, so much so that a lot of content creators are actually producing their videos in that slim, almost 2:1 aspect ratio. Now it kind of goes the opposite direction, where as you can see, you have black bars on the top and bottom. And what you really want is a taller video, but nonetheless, this gives you an idea of how much video you can fit on the screen in 16:9, and it's a ton. In fact, so much so that this video watching experience like this is more similar to a tablet than it is to a smartphone, as I'm sure you can tell. Now, when you go ahead and let's say you take the iPhone, you can see you actually end up with a much slimmer image. That's the biggest difference. So things get pinched this way and you end up with the black bars on the other side. Now, granted, it's important to note that within YouTube, there's no way currently to fill the display. I'm sure this will be updated in an app update for YouTube itself, as well as other apps that start to take into consideration devices like the Fold. But for now, that's your maximum display size. Whereas on these other devices, you crop in like this in order to fill the frame, and you end up with an image kind of similar for video watching. Granted, it's important to remember that on the iPhone or these other two devices, if you do crop into a video, you are actually losing some of the video on the top and the bottom. I'm sure you're already aware of this. That's if you want to see the full video. So this is a better one-to-one representation of how much extra screen you're dealing with on the Fold. Now, thinness, when it's folded out, it's actually thinner. It's ever so slightly thinner than the iPhone. It's just a bit fatter than the Fold when folded out. Same thing goes for the P30 Pro. It's a little bit fatter. And the Galaxy S10 Plus is almost identical. Another surprising thing to me with this device has been how light it is. Like, it's one area where I was skeptical when I saw the original clip. I'm like, is that going to be fatiguing to hold it for periods of time? Is it going to be comfortable? And the weight of it has a lot to do with that, and the weight distribution. And the truth is, it's super comfy to hold. You feel like you could kind of be set up like this right here for a while without any problems. Of course, it's also important to have the comparison in folded mode because it looks really tall in pictures. I expected it to be a lot taller than it is. It's similar in height to any flagship large size smartphone that's out there right now. Now, granted, in the folded mode, it's quite a bit fatter, as you can see on that angle right there. That said, the pocket test, kind of surprising. I'll show you. For all intents and purposes, I mean, yeah, there's more of a thing there. You don't feel any different. It doesn't feel too big in your pocket. Just for comparison, that's the Pocket Test Galaxy Fold. This is Pocket Test XS Max. It's super easy in the pocket. Again, an area where I was skeptical, and it turned out better than I expected. Now, speakers, also very important. I think video watching is going to be a big part of why people pick up this particular device. We'll bring up the same video on all of them to test the speakers. Or how about the Fold unboxing? Why not? Now, the other thing I should mention right now is that I didn't necessarily expect to watch most of my video on the Fold in portrait mode. I would have thought I would flip it into landscape, but what ends up happening is it's as big as you're used to with a smartphone, almost in portrait mode, to the point where you're kind of happy to leave it paused so that you can go down and either scroll the suggested videos or scroll the comments. So you can kind of be doing two things at once, which you already kind of do on your smartphone. At least a lot of people do. Except here, the frame is quite small to the point where you do feel the need to flip the phone around on a frequent basis watching YouTube on any of these smartphones, even though these are the biggest ones that most people have. Let's do volume tests now. He's got a special package today. He pulled some strings. Would you look at this? Oh my goodness. Galaxy One people in front of me. This is a leap. People have been waiting for. I've been waiting for myself. I talked about this thing a lot. One people have been waiting for. I've been waiting for myself. What better way to find? And now it's here. It's in front of me. This is a leap. The speakers are their flagship territory. I'd say they're a bit better. I would say that they are better than these three devices in terms of clarity. Of course, you have true stereo speakers on here, so holding it in landscape mode is going to improve their performance even more. As you can tell, it's a consumption device. That's where this thing really shines. That brings me to the next thing I want to mention, actually, which along with video, which is the obvious reason to have a big display, keyboard was a surprising place as well. You can see what a typical keyboard size looks like on a flagship device, but look what happens over on the Galaxy Fold. As you can tell, it's a split keyboard. Now you can change this. You can go to a keyboard more like either of these if you choose to. This for me is the best layout. And as you can tell, the thumb typing is unreal in this scenario. The quick brown, you get the idea. From a productivity standpoint, this is big because this is one of the reasons that people reach for a laptop, tablet, or bigger device, is because typing on a phone has its limitations. When you go into landscape, of course, what happens is you lose most of your display. So if you were trying to go through a bunch of emails, productivity stuff, you find yourself scrolling through the email that sits there, and you don't end up with that much bigger of a keyboard anyhow. Not only do you get a bigger consumption device, you get a bigger productivity device as well. You're going to see more. It's kind of like two smartphones. It's kind of like a tablet in a smartphone form factor. So now the interesting thing on the web is that you kind of lose out on some of the advantage of the bigger display. Because it's loading up the mobile site, you're limited to that particular design. What you'll probably do with this device is actually trigger the desktop version. And it's big enough that the desktop version actually works pretty well. And as you can see here, now I'm getting way more information on the display comparatively to this, where I probably have to scroll a bit more. But in order to truly take advantage, you kind of have to treat this like a tablet when it's folded out, or like a laptop. Now I've got Instagram loaded up. Obviously, the layout is identical, but the experience is kind of different just because of the scale. So obviously, on the Fold side, you got bigger images, but interestingly, you don't necessarily have more. You don't see as many. And this could be a thing, again, where the app developer could change this and go in and have it show up differently for the Fold. Not sure that it will. But as of right now, on these flagship devices, you actually see more in the feed, just smaller versions of the images. Now, if you go to the Discover page, for example, it's kind of more of the same. You get bigger thumbnails on the Fold, but you see more in one glance on the other three flagships. Because videos on Instagram are square, they take up almost the entire display of the Fold. Now, comparatively, you'll see that the square, it really only takes up half the screen. It really, truly is almost like two flagship smartphones stacked beside each other. It's very close, since you basically do have two smartphones pinned together that fold out, you might want to multitask instead of only doing one thing at once. All right, so here's what it looks like with 2 apps open. This is kind of wild. Now, you can adjust it as well, like this. So now I have the mobile version of this website that I'm scrolling while watching YouTube. Click on a video, scroll over. I mean, it's really like 2 smartphones side by side. But you want to get real crazy, you can add a 3rd app to it. I could go ahead and open up the Play Store. And now you got 3 apps on the display instead of 2 or 1. I don't know. Maybe you got to have a chat open. Maybe you have Slack or WhatsApp. You want to keep it open in the corner while watching a video and also browsing the web. Maybe you're crazy like that. I think 2 apps is more reasonable and probably is going to be utilized more frequently than 3, but at least they let you do it. It's completely up to you. You have the screen real estate, so go ahead and get after it. These on the left-hand side are very mature versions of what this might eventually be. You're looking at version 1.0 in the case of the Fold. But surprisingly, it seems like it's already a good version. Like a surprisingly polished version for something that's a 1.0 type of device. And that's the part that's impressive to me for something this ambitious, that it can be polished at all. Now, I don't know, having played with it, how much functionality I'm going to get out of the closed off phone. This is a bizarre situation here. It's like, how often are you going to use that? You know, in the short time that I've had it, I've realized you just flip it open almost for everything, kind of like a laptop. You stop thinking about the fact that you're flipping it open. And the screen and the real estate is so nice to have that you kind of feel handicapped being on the exterior display. So you just pick it up, you flip it quick, and you just operate like that. And the cool thing is, you just want to open and close it frequently anyways. I'm going to be that guy opening and closing this thing. It's just, there's something about the mechanical aspect of that which is just quite satisfying in a bizarre way. So there it is. It's the Galaxy Fold. That's how it stacks up to the other flagships in the marketplace. Once again, that's the iPhone XS Max P30 Pro from Huawei. This is the Samsung Galaxy S10, and this is the latest player on the block. I can't wait to use it more. It is the Galaxy Fold. It's a whole new thing, guys. I haven't been this excited for a smartphone in a while. It's just fun. It's fun to play with something this different.